Hello, I'm Matt Galloway, and this is the Current Podcast.
What's that? No, it's okay. I just need to make sure I don't hit the canopy. We'll just line up so I can grab it with a forklift. Thank you.
That is the sound of 40,000, yes, he said 40,000 pounds of potatoes being delivered to Food Sharing Ottawa earlier this month. They were just a small portion of a donation of surplus potatoes that were delivered across North America over these past few weeks from 2 Manitoba farms. Combined, those 2 farms donated 12 million pounds of potatoes to food charities. How this all came together is an amazing story of connections and logistics and volunteerism and community support. And here to tell us the story, I'm joined first by Isaiah Hofer, manager of Acadia Colony Farms in Carberry, Manitoba. Isaiah, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell me a little bit about your farm.
So we are located around Carberry, Manitoba. We farm approximately 1,400 acres of potatoes. That's basically what we do.
And last year was a good year for potatoes.
Last year was an exceptional year for potatoes, yes.
How exceptional? How big was your surplus of potatoes?
Just to put it into perspective, you can speak to people that have been in this industry for the last 40 years. They've never seen something like this. I also have to say that everything has changed to, the way our farming practices, and more precision farming has also helped with increasing some of the yields. But I think the weather that we had last year must have been just, it was just a suitable year for growing potatoes. We had at least, almost 100,000 bags of surplus potatoes, which, in potato language, a bag is 100 pounds.
That's a lot of potatoes.
Yes, it was just the growing season. It was just the way it was, and it's not only us that saw that; it's everybody saw that in the industry in Manitoba.
So, what were you thinking of doing with those extra 6 million pounds of potatoes?
Typically, if you have some extra potatoes, there's always a little bit of room in the industry where those potatoes would be used in different jurisdictions. And but this year, it seemed like everybody had an abundance. Usually the processors would find a way to use them. But this year, everybody had a good crop, and it wasn't just us. It was all the farms around us. Mm-hmm. And it just created a huge surplus of potatoes, which meant that the processors just could not use those potatoes. And it was either we haul them to the feedlots or we haul them back out in the field.
So where did the idea of donating them come from? How did that end up on your radar?
We work with Keystone Potato Producers. It's an association that all Manitoba farmers work with. So they sent out this opportunity. They sent an email out of this opportunity to work with FarmLink. So as soon as I saw that, I actually reached out to them and got some contact information and made contact with a gentleman by the name of Mike Myers from FarmLink. From there, it just went straight ahead, and within 2 weeks we were shipping to potatoes all over North America.
All right, so let's bring somebody from FarmLink in to pick up this story. Isaiah, stay on the line with us. Kate Nelson is the Chief Marketing Officer for FarmLink. She is in Brooklyn, New York. Kate, hello to you.
Hey, how's it going?
Well, I'm okay. What is FarmLink? And tell us a little bit about this project.
The FarmLink project is a nonprofit that we founded in 2020 in response to, we were all college students having been sent home from our various universities, and we were seeing on the news these really dramatic lines at food banks. At the same time, we saw really intense food having to be thrown away due to supply chains being shut down. And so in 2020, we thought, this feels like one problem can solve the other. So what we did is we basically rented a U-Haul, and we called a bunch of farms, and eventually one said, if you can take our surplus, you can have it. We delivered that surplus of eggs to a local community food bank, and we just kind of rinsed and repeated that model. And now 4 years later, here we are. We've moved 200 million pounds of food across the United States, wow, Canada, and Mexico. We're seeing surplus kind of all over the place. We grow enough food in the United States, at least, to feed everyone in the country 2 times over. And just due to supply chains, we see a lot of that go to waste. So kind of see it all over the place. We're anticipating a pretty large surplus of apples coming up in the fall. Last year, we rescued 13 million pounds of apples. And we deliver this produce to hunger-fighting charities and food banks and really anyone who will take it. I mean, it kind of gets complicated because not every food bank wants 40,000 pounds of potatoes.
So how do you learn that farmers have excess produce? I mean, like some sort of bat signal that goes up. you notice and you say, we're heading there to pick up the apples. We're heading here to pick up corn. We're heading here to pick up potatoes.
Yeah, it's not so much a bat signal as much as it is we have kind of a team of experts who've been in the agriculture industry for so long that they can kind of anticipate, where the surplus might be. And also, I think the reason that we've seen so much success is just due to relationships. So, our head of farmer advocacy created a really awesome relationship last year with the executive director of Keystone Potato. And I think it really is just it's about collaboration and communication. So if, an area is seeing surplus, they know who to call. You know what I mean? It's less Batman, more Ghostbusters.
I love that. How did you find out that there were 12 million pounds of excess potatoes from these two farms in Manitoba?
Last June, our head of farmer advocacy, Mike Meyer, met Susan Ainsworth at a potato convention, which they have, and apparently are pretty awesome. And yeah, I think that she kind of just understood that there was this surplus that was happening, and so she reached out to us, and we were able to really activate. And luckily we got all the packaging for the potatoes donated to us by Simplot, so we really couldn't have done it without them. But it was just really we got a call and then we thought, let's just try to do this. The other thing that's really a catastrophe when food goes to waste is it releases really harmful emission. Not only are we helping feed people with delivering these potatoes, but we're reducing the amount of methane that's going into the atmosphere. So it's kind of like the biggest win of all time.
How does that, in terms of scale, how does 12 million pounds of potatoes compare in size to the other donations that FarmLink has received?
It's huge. I mean, it's huge. We've never really, we're just now kind of working on these really large scale rescues because I don't really think there's not really infrastructure for rescues that are at this scale right now. This is definitely our largest. I mean, like I said, we were founded in 2020. So most of what we're working with is, 40,000 pounds here or there. And in total, we've moved 200 million. But that kind of all adds up. So this potato surplus was really huge for us.
What do you need to do? I mean, it's huge in terms of scale and size as well. What do you need to do to move 12 million pounds of potatoes?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, like I said, comes down to collaboration, and there's a lot of pieces that, I didn't really know before I started doing all this that you wouldn't really think of, if you're moving a bunch of potatoes, you're going to probably need bins to put them in. You're going to need good trucks to put them in. You're going to need kind of a bunch of, stuff. And so luckily Isaiah was able to cover the harvest of it, and we had Simplot covering, the packaging, which was fantastic. And then also at FarmLink, we just covered the freight of it. We have a pretty awesome, network of charities that we can deliver these potatoes to. So they were going all over Canada and all over the United States. But there's a lot of steps, and it definitely is, it hinges on collaboration.
Isaiah, on your end, what did you have to do to get ready for trucks to come and pick up your potatoes?
Well, I think, it all sounds, and I've been approached quite a few times by, people hearing the story and hearing what we're doing, and it all sounds so glorious, and which it's just wonderful that we're able to do that. But there's a lot of behind the scenes work. There's a lot of labor that went into it. So, we start off with, how do I ship potatoes across the border? And it's getting the information from your broker, what do I need, and getting set up that we're able to export potatoes into the U.S. And, then it's what's the best way, the most efficient way to send them, and looking at the labor aspect of it, we sent 115 trucks. So we actually went on looking for donations too. We approached Simplot Canada. They came to the table. We approached McCain's. They came to the table. We've got a local charity here that actually actually told us that they would help out too with some of the pallets. But it's at the end of the day, it was a decision that we made. Even if they didn't come to the table, we would spend the extra money to get it done. You see a lot of hunger throughout the world, and we made a decision to donate them.
One of the places that took them was Food Sharing Ottawa. Wendy Leung is the volunteer executive director of Food Sharing Ottawa and is in our Ottawa studio. Wendy, good morning to you.
Good morning.
When you heard that you could have access to part of a 12 million pound donation of potatoes, what went through your mind?
I couldn't believe my eyes, if you ask me. I have to admit, when we first got the email, it was short and sweet, but I think the stats were really striking, and that's really caught my eyes.
What did the email say?
Oh, it was just mentioning we had over 100 loads of potatoes. Each loads were about 40,000 pounds. So doing quick math, it was adding up to 4 million pounds. That's a lot.
And is that what you took? You took about 4 million pounds?
No, we only took 1% of that.
Oh, okay. That's still a lot of potatoes.
It is, right?
So how do you go about figuring out how to receive all of these potatoes?
That took about a solid 6 weeks of figuring out logistics. I mean, we are, after all, a small local organization. It's a volunteer-run organization that rescue food. We've been rescuing food since 2015, but in a small scale. We have cars driving around the city to rescue food, but nothing to this scale, right? So that took a while, but we made it happen.
What did you have to do to put together the logistics to be able to receive a donation like this?
So thanks to the FarmLink project, I think they were really clear on what was needed to have those potatoes unloaded. We were talking about getting a forklift, at least a loading dock, to start. And then I thought, how hard would it be to find a forklift? And yes, it was actually one of the hardest tasks.
Okay.
Surprisingly. I mean, we're really small scale, so it was a very steep learning curve for us, like trying to understand how to even eventually down the line sort potatoes to what is needed. So it's a lot of thinking and understanding how we could make sure that we could get the potatoes here. We could sort them out before they go bad, right? There is a risk to it.
You have to have somewhere to put them. You have to have somewhere some people to unload them.
Yes.
And was that easy to put together, or?
No, I was looking around when I was driving in Ottawa. I'm like, there's so much green space. It would seem to be impossible to say that I can't find a space, and that's why I reached out to all our local community partners. I think that's how it started. To my own surprise, there wasn't a lot of people with that much space. But I heard a lot of feedbacks that there was a demand for it, and that really pushes me to keep looking to find the right partners to make this happen.
Is this a good donation? Like, when you have an offer, that's one thing, but taking on that number of potatoes, that amount of potatoes, that's something that people would be looking for?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all know potatoes is an essential pantry ingredients, right? So for every culture, everyone could make use of a potato. So at some point, I was telling myself, if we could rescue 1% of this, so one load out of this 100 plus that was available, we could easily feed at least 40,000 people, averaging about one potato per person, let's say, per individual. Right?
That's amazing.
It is.
What did you have to do to make sure, once you got the potatoes, that you could get them out the door before they go bad? Potatoes aren't going to last forever.
Right. So eventually all our stars aligned. We were very thankful to be partnering with 3 additional organizations, namely Care Center Ottawa, Lion Hearts, Deep Roots Food Hub, to find that space, the forklift, and also the point is the temperature that is required to make sure the storage temperature. I think it was about 45 Fahrenheit. That was it was not required, but was suggested. So for the potatoes to last for about a month. So we worked with these criteria, and each of these partners had something to give us to support us on this project.
Do you know who ended up with the potatoes in their grocery bag or on their plate?
Together, I think we actually gave back to over 50 local organizations across the city with countless numbers of individuals and households. And all these potatoes were claimed actually within 8 to 9 days.
8 to 9 days?
Yeah.
You got rid of all those potatoes in just over a week.
Right. Yes.
What does that tell you?
People love potatoes.
And there's a lot of need out there, yeah.
There is. And one thing we also believe in is, yes, there's a need to it. But with Food Sharing Ottawa, we want to make sure we work with the community that can make use of potatoes. We were able to also provide potatoes to schools. And they actually used the opportunity to educate their students what is surplus food, teach them new culinary skills out of this, and redistribute that food that they cook back to the school, which is a fantastic story at the end.
Have you met Isaiah before?
No, I'm so happy that you found it.
So he's on the line. What would you say to him about, you're on the receiving end of this. What would you say to him?
Oh, thank you. Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea what this means to, it's not even, it's about Food Sharing Ottawa, it's the community. We heard so much great feedbacks about this potato initiative. I don't even know how to call it. We call it the Ottawa Great Potato Rescue.
The Great Potato Rescue.
Yes.
Isaiah, what would you say to Wendy? I mean, this came from your field.
Hey, I guess for us, it's, when you're blessed with so much, it's just good to give back. You want to bless others too. And I'm just glad we could do that. And, a lot of times I felt we're a little bit disconnected. So I actually walked into Winnipeg Harvest just to see what they're actually doing with our potatoes. And it actually opens up something within you that's of compassion when you see actually how people are waiting for your potatoes. They had a board on the wall that 1,100 bags of our potatoes, of 10-pound bags, are going out that Monday. And, it just makes you, whatever decision we made, it just secured it that this was the right decision to do. And I'm glad we were able to do that.
Kate, you help facilitate all of this through your organization. What is this story about, do you think?
I think the story is about just kind of being brave and trusting the process. And like you said, Isaiah, like really just trying to support one another with what it is that we have, We could do the trucks and Isaiah could do the potatoes and Wendy could figure out where to put them. So it really is collaboration at the end of the day and just trust in the process.
There's a lot of nastiness in the news these days. And this is kind of the opposite of that. This is people actually working together for something larger than what they could do on their own. Yeah,
I think the one thing I would say is let's do it again. Let's keep going.
Isaiah, you have a receptive audience for your potatoes.
Absolutely, we would do it in a heartbeat. And we finished this project, and if there's opportunity for us to do it again, we will do it again. The one thing that amazed us is the networking through FarmLink and where the potatoes went to. Is it San Diego? Is it New Mexico? Is it New York? Is it Connecticut, Toronto, Okanagan, Vancouver? It's just Brandon, Manitoba, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Grand Forks. And the power of networking, it was just was tremendous.
Power of networking, but the power of people who put themselves into this as well. I'm glad to talk to you all about this. This is some story. Thank you very much for what you've done, and thanks for telling us about it.
For everybody who's listening, eat more potatoes.
Said like the farmer who raises lots of things and grows the potatoes. Thank you very much.
I got to advertise our industry.
All the best to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Isaiah Hofer is the manager of Acadia Colony Farms in Carberry, Manitoba. Wendy Leung is the volunteer executive director of Food Sharing Ottawa. Kate Nelson, the chief marketing officer for the FarmLink project. Never have I said the word potato more in my life than in that interview.